Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. This is your host, Bryan O'Rourke. I've got a little bit of a cold this morning, so I hope my voice isn't too annoying. Having just returned from the International Health, Racquet, and Sports Club Association's 2018 conference this March that occurred in San Diego. A great show, a long week. And given that I serve on the IHRSA board, we get there on a Sunday, and I returned Saturday evening. So it was a long week, but a lot of great stuff going on at the trade show. A lot of wonderful keynote speakers, friends, associates from around the world. It was quite the event, and we learned that the show will be back. IHRSA's show will be back in San Diego next year in 2019. So if you haven't made it, please try to get there, and I hope to see you. I had a great talk on Saturday morning at 9, and thanks to all of you that showed up. After Augie's Quest that Friday night, I was surprised to see the number appear. That talk, by the way, is available online, the deck and the videos. So just Google my name, Bryan O'Rourke, IHRSA 2018, and you'll come across it. But today, what I wanted to do is share with you an interesting panel on artificial intelligence that was sponsored by Daxco. And that'll be the subject of our podcast today. Delphine Carter moderated it, and I was joined along with Jeff Van Dixhorn of Club Automation. Jeff not only developed a great enterprise platform, but he has been a fellow who knows about health club operations and developed and operated multiple club locations over the years. We also had Victor Belford of Conversica, who is a very knowledgeable fellow when it comes to AI, and Conversica's platform is a pretty interesting application of an autonomous person. They name her Rachel, and this product is used in sales and support functions, and it's a pure AI that communicates with people using email and SMS. And so this panel explores AI, what machine learning means, what are the implications for health clubs and the application specifically of AI. So it's a little longer than most of our podcasts, but I figured we'd share with you the panel in its entirety, about an hour. And I hope you enjoy it very much, and look for more in the coming weeks. We'll have some additional and special interviews with a few people connecting some of what we learned at IHRSA this year and other information. So without further ado, please enjoy the panel sponsored by Daxco on AI.
So AI promises us that it can automate mundane tasks and really give us great insight. And industries from healthcare to manufacturing are using those benefits, and they're doing it consistently and very lucratively. So there's another term that's being thrown around at the same time as artificial intelligence, and that's called machine learning. So you're going to hear people on the IHRSA floor and kind of throughout your lives now talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning interchangeably. So is that really just a brand thing, or is there a true difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence? And there is. So I want to give you like a 2-second introduction to the big difference, so that when you hear artificial intelligence, you know, is that actually machine learning, and can tell the difference on your own. So machine learning is where a machine teaches itself to become more accurate. So that is awesome. It fuels a lot of great technology. It's like Google Analytics. Google really, when you're searching, it just gets smarter about what you want to see when you search. Exciting. AI is where the machine has learned how to act upon that. So for a real life example in your world, let's say you've got some kind of machine learning technology that tells you members in this zip code that have this behavior are likeliest to join your club. Well, AI, so the artificial intelligence, would actually be that somebody or the machine, something starts communicating with that perfect person and tries to engage them to join. So good with the difference? One is just learning about the behaviors to tag them as, to tag those behaviors as something, and the other is acting on that intelligence. So to introduce everybody, I'm Delphine Carter. I'm with Daxco. I'm a senior product manager. You guys may know Daxco better through our platform brands of Spectrum and most recently Club Automation, who we're super glad to have on board. And then here we've got Bryan O'Rourke. Raise your hand in case you can't read the name tag. So he is the CEO of, and I meant to ask you how to pronounce this.
Videre
Ventures. He spends a lot of his time as an executive, board member, advisor, author, and speaker, as well as a lovely contributor to IHRSA. And he actively helps people in their organizations reach their potential. Next, we've got Jeff Van Dixhorn. So he's got over 20 years of experience in the athletic club industry. He first purchased his first club in 1995, and over the course of the next 8 years, he grew it to include multi-purpose athletic facilities in Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. In 2007, Jeff founded Club Automation, a very sophisticated club management system that's used today by over 400 facilities nationwide. And most recently, Jeff and his team at Club Automation, when we see a good thing, we like to act on it. He joined the Daxco Nation. And then finally, we've got Victor Belfour. He's the Senior Vice President of Business Development for Conversica. Conversica is a leader in the conversational AI space for business and the only provider of AI to drive lead engagement software for marketing and sales organizations. So 3 great experts between the industry and the knowledge on artificial intelligence. So we'll start off with getting some of the panel thoughts on artificial intelligence. Who would like to kick it off?
I like artificial intelligence. I'm for it.
You're a fan?
I'm for it, right? Yeah. So Delphine's introduction was right on, right? Artificial intelligence or machine learning aren't new concepts. They've been around since probably the 50s or something. And machines just kind of computers becoming better at what they do. And there was a huge investment in AI in the 50s and the 60s, which kind of didn't really lead to anything other than some really interesting university work, but really no commercialized product. What we're beginning to notice now is that AI for the last few years has been used sort of in the future tense. AI will change, AI will replace, AI will do all of these other things, right? And it's only now that we're finally kind of seeing AI does or AI is, right? So it's actually playing a really important role now. Most of you, a lot of you, all of you are using machine learning now. It's everywhere, right? So when Netflix gives you a recommendation for what to watch, it's based on what you watched before, what people like you watched before, what, all of these other things. And when you select those things, it fine-tunes its recommendations. When Google shows you ads, when all of this. Now we're at a stage where AI begins to actually, rather than give you suggestions, so back to what Delphine said, Netflix engine gives you a suggestion, you act on it, right? So machine learning suggests the action is up to the human. I think the next stage is what's happening now, which is AI actually making choices and taking actions. And if we want to kind of step away a little bit from lead follow-up, self-driving cars is that kind of AI. So the car does make a choice whether to change lanes, increase speed, decrease speed. It doesn't make a suggestion to the driver. It's like, hey, Victor, what would you like to do? So that's where we're now, and specifically in this industry, I think there is a phenomenal opportunity to use AI independently thinking, independently acting, to, in this context, increase engagement from gym members.
Yeah, so Bryan, you have a lot of great podcasts that you've recently put out. You can see them on his LinkedIn page about AI not being a thing of the future anymore.
No, it's here. And for people in the room, what you need to think about is what this means for your businesses, either through reducing cost or enhancing revenue. The key drivers in the industry, things like personalization, the ability to communicate and interface with your customer based on intelligence. These tools are here today. And what it does is it helps you cut costs through automation, and it helps you enhance revenue through dealing with people in new ways and providing more targeted service, communication, building value. So issues like retention, issues like understanding how to segment your customers in a way that's meaningful to them becomes scalable. And that is really advantageous. And we see it across all industry spaces. We're going to see it in our space, and it's going to be a significant driver of innovation in the coming few years ahead.
Yeah, I think what's interesting just from the operations side is in the club business is really maintaining that personal connection with your customer and making it personal, but yet being able to automate some of these communications. So as a club operator, I'm sure you guys can relate to having a million things going on, but yet needing to, as Bryan mentioned, really be on follow-up, but yet trying to stay in, kind of having that personal connection. And I think what AI does, it kind of gives you the best of both. It's that ability to get those communications out, but yet still maintain a personal connection and then pull that through to kind of a final follow-up. And I think, that really fits really well in our industry in a number of scenarios. So.
Great. So the other thing that probably a lot of you have come across, I know I have, is when you're off on a website and the chat bots start coming up. And you can tell it's not somebody, right? Like you can tell it's a little canned maybe. I mean, it's good, it's efficient, right? And it helps you get what you need fairly well, but it feels canned. So what we want to talk about is really how technology has gotten so much better, and some of the true AI and the higher end AI is more conversational. It's more authentic. You really have no idea whether it's a person or if it's the machine doing it. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that. Victor, help us to understand how Converska kind of worked through that.
So first of all, maybe it makes sense to tell you a little bit about what Converska does. So we built a artificial person. Ours is called Rachel, but our customers call her whatever they want. I think at some point Baxco will start talking about Nora. But we have Rachel, named incidentally after Blade Runner. You were talking about sort of, okay, all right, some people, that's good. And Rachel engages with gym members. So she reaches out, she converts interested prospects into actionable opportunities. She maintains engagement. She can do a whole lot of different things. She corresponds with people over SMS or email, and she is indistinguishable from human. So very often we will see people coming in to our office and meeting with us, and then going, is Rachel around? And we're like, not available right now. It's like, well,
Busy.
please tell her that she's been exceptional to deal with. I mean, it just yeah. So that kind of stuff. She also occasionally gets flowers. She gets lots of Christmas cards. She gets emails like, "Hey Rachel, your follow-up's been really exceptional. You're persistent and friendly, and if you ever get tired of this whole Converska situation, just let me know. We got a gig for you." She gets emails like, "Oh, I see you're in San Mateo, California. I'm just 5 miles away. Would you be interested in a coffee?" So that's what we do.
That's awesome. So Jeff, can you explain just kind of how data plays into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think from a practical standpoint at a club level, so we're gathering data within the software, right? So we're gathering, whether it be cancellation reasons, whether it be, EFT failures, whatever those might be, new engagements, from a CRM. What's really neat about this product is being able to then direct that information and eventually become an automatic direction. It could be check-ins, it could be, under 2 check-ins in a period of time, or 0 check-ins in the first 90 days, right? So we have all this information. It's reportable. You can do campaigns on it through a communication platform, but this is the next step, and really it's the future to be able to take that and then create a dialogue. So again, gathering all the information we have in the platforms and making it usable, and I think not only usable, but without having to take action every time you want to use it, right? So the goal is going forward is you're able to just really seamlessly pull that information into communications, obviously allow Rachel or Nora, whoever that might be, to engage in a dialogue that might be multiple steps, and then eventually pull that back into an action at the club, whether it be a join, whether it be a re-engagement with a member back into the club, things like that. So it really bridges that gap well.
So Bryan, I see you've been taking some notes. You have a few comments.
I just like to scribble, Delphine. It's a nervous habit. Well, I think the key is, and we'll get into some of these details, is these are great tools, right? But you have to have great, clean data, and you have to understand your processes. It requires a lot of thinking about systematizing everything you're doing, and cannot emphasize enough the need to do that, and then you need to have very quality data, because without those components, these tools don't work well. But if you figure that out, what they do is they really liberate you to automate some basic aspects of your business in the way that helps you get better, smarter. It helps you do a better job of servicing your customers. So it's a very, very powerful tool, and I think it's going to become more and more mainstream and separate the really great brands that understand how to invest in automation and technologies, but at the same time, using the benefits of that to then leverage human interaction where appropriate throughout the customer journey and the user experience that you're intently trying to design, not by accident, but by design.
So that's the point that I like very much is that you brought up about making it a brand differentiator. So how could everybody use AI as for a competitive advantage and also just to differentiate themselves from all the noise that's out in the world?
Yeah, so and I have a talk Saturday morning at 9. I'd encourage you, if you're able to make it, we talk about this in great depth. But right now, I'd estimate that about 5% of consumer brands are really great at differentiation. And I think that's probably about right in the health club industry. And the differentiators are 5 key drivers. I won't go into all of them, but one we've mentioned here that has been probably beaten to death is personalization, and authentic personalization, not some rote personalization. Personalization is a huge differentiator. Customer care around targeted groups of people, as targeted as you can make them, that messages and interacts with those people based on their unique components of who they are, is a huge, huge differentiator for any consumer business. And doing that well is very hard. With these tools, though, if you're very smart and using these data points and really thinking through the user experience you want to design, you can really differentiate yourself doing that well. That's one easy example.
I can add to that. So one element of differentiation is personalization. Another element of differentiation is quality of service, right? Quality of that interaction, right? Delighting your customers, right? And this is one of my favorite things to talk about, so I'll get carried away here in a second. But there is this, a perception in the world that AI versus humans is this kind of a trade-off, right? So AI is cheaper, machines are more scalable, humans, of course, are better, but more expensive. No longer the case. There's a whole number of things which AI is simply better. This is one of these examples, scalable personalization. So, not to toot our own horn, but every message that Rachel writes is completely unique to that person. It's addressed to that person. And I can't tell you how many times we get these messages from folks going like, this is just, or we check in on our salespeople, and the salespeople will simply like copy and paste, right? So they will send, 20 emails just copying and pasting, forgetting to change names sometimes, it's just embarrassing. And then what happens if it's into the same family or into the same company, these emails cross on one screen and somebody's like, hey dad, I got this email. Okay, I got this email too. Wait a minute, it's the same email, right? And you immediately get this kind of feeling, it's like, man, they don't care, right? Every message is personalized. Every message is unique. She never loses temper, right? She doesn't say things like, oh, this is the 4th email I'm writing to you. Why? None of those things, right? Always friendly, always polite. And think about how often your salespeople get flowers and invitations to dates.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. So I'll make a confession. I was a little skeptical on, kind of the AI and that interaction and kind of losing that human connection. And having gone through the product and seeing it in action, it really is powerful. And it really does feel very personal. And I would encourage all of you guys as operators, to look into that, how that interaction can fit. I do also believe at some point there needs to be a human connection, right? And there needs to be a pass off. And Victor and I have talked about this. And at what point does that happen, right? And so there is a process, obviously getting the data out, getting it into a communication pattern. And at what point does that get pulled back into a human connection or a club visit or something, But I think the pass off is pretty clean from what I've seen.
Yeah. I like to speak to this because it's something that, like both of you, I've heard this lecture come out of people's mouths in the health club industry so many times, where people get mad at me about being an advocate for technology. Somehow the technology is the antithesis and undermining human interaction, and it's just a complete fiction. And it's a silly argument. If you look at a great brand like the Four Seasons hotels, their app and the way that you exchange and are able to schedule room service on demand, convenience is the new currency. And I think we have to be very careful about bringing our biases and past tense mindsets to how we operate our businesses, because a lot of it is poppycock. It's just bull. And people need to pay very close attention. So when someone asks me a question of how can you be a differentiator, if you're not scrubbing every aspect of what you're doing with your customer, you're being dishonest with yourself about really being focused on how to win in the market. And this is the number one thing. It's not technology. It's the way people think about it. And when you're advocating tech, of course, humans are the greatest apps on the planet. But that doesn't answer the question of how are you going to improve your ability to compete in a market that's becoming increasingly competitive. It's not going to be easier, but the rewards for those that figure this out are going to be significant in the game. So it's really important that we're honest with each other about really what makes a difference. And if you approach your business in the same way you have, you're going to fail. And that's just the bottom line. So let's not make it about tech versus people. Let's make it about how can we service our customers in ways that delight them at scale and use these tools effectively. That's the question.
So for many people, I think it's fair to say their very first interaction with you won't be in the facility. So you won't have the chance to wow them with how clean it is, how modern it is, or just you're great people, because they're engaging with you online and they're engaging through emails and phone calls, trying to figure out what your price point is and all of that. So it's very important that those initial interactions be amazing, right? Like customer experience starts outside the building. And so finding a way to scale that, whether through artificial intelligence or whether through hiring an amazing sales assistant, whatever it is, that's kind of the way that you're gonna win in your market. So that leads into the next question. Should some of the clubs here be thinking about an artificial intelligence strategy?
Oh, me? No. So I don't think so, right? I don't think artificial intelligence is a strategy. We need tools, we need business strategies, we need vendors who know what they're doing, we need employees who know what they're doing, we need culture of customer obsession, we need all of these things, right? Let the vendors decide when and what technology to use to deliver the service, right? So we are, this may be strange coming from me because I kind of represent the AI industry here, but I think it all centers around the business goal. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And then various technologies, AI, user interfaces and business processes and CRM and marketing automation will fold under that. Pick the ones you need to achieve your business goals.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a part of your strategy, and I think what's exciting for me, having seen this, is again as a software vendor, we have so much information, and we're working hard to capture the information, be able to create targeted information, so that you're really not, over communicating to people that are not the targeted audience. To me, what's exciting about this is once you engage that first part of the communication, to be able to scale that and to make it feel very personal is exciting. So really, to me, it just fits on top of a strategy that's already happening that I think we're working towards as an industry. It's just another step or level to make it more professional, more scalable, and I think you can have a lot more impact when we do that.
Yeah, I agree. And here's what happens all the time, and I get these calls all the time, have for years. Bryan, what are we going to do about wearables? Bryan, what are we going to do about AI? Bryan, what are we going to do about our website mobility? Bryan, these are the questions. They're the wrong questions. In the United States today, there are 350 drive-in movie theaters that are in business, okay? It's a business strategy. Just because digital streaming of movies is a mainstream growth area, Netflix is so powerful and Amazon, doesn't mean that John and Susan outside of Topeka, Kansas can't have a very successful drive-in movie theater business, and they do. There are 350 of them. So it's all about understanding key questions to how are you going to compete? Is your business model sustainable? What is your capability to compete? What do you really want to do strategically? What's your local marketplace like? These questions. And then from that, how do you want to deliver your service? How do you want to do that? And what matters to your customer? It's those basic things that you really have to spend a lot of time on before you get to these tools, as these gentlemen are saying. Because without that context, what happens is this. People are chasing the shiny bauble all day long, and they really never improve their business. They waste a lot of money on technology they really don't need. And they're going from one shiny bauble to next year, the next shiny bauble, to next year, the next shiny bauble, and they get no traction. And they're confused. Another thing that is very important is getting quality vendors that you can trust to ask a lot of questions of, so that you're not being sold something that really isn't going to cure your ills. Because curing your ills a lot of time takes a lot more than a vendor tool. It takes really understanding answers to fundamental questions that I just raised before. This is really important, I think.
So there's a joke about machine learning, and it is basically, every parent says, if everybody's going to jump off the bridge, are you going to do it? Well, in machine learning, yes. If you live off of machine learning, yes, everybody's going to jump off the bridge because that's what it's trying to do, right? And so what I want to talk about is really what is the difference with Conversica and just plain machine learning as far as making it how AI, true AI, keeps learning and getting stronger versus just kind of repeating bad behavior, so that we don't want members jumping off the bridge.
You're like throwing me alley-oop. I'm gonna dunk. Okay, right. So it's worth talking a little bit about maybe an example of how these conversations develop and evolve. So right now we support something like 130 different use cases, event follow-ups and leads and like all kinds of different things, right? But we started out at some point with 0, right? And so right now we cover a ton of these things, but every once in a while somebody comes to us and says, hey guys, I have this use case that you guys don't cover. Can you write a conversation? And so the way it works is like this. So we write this conversation, right? And we do our best. We sit down with our, industry experts and we write what this conversation might look like. And it looks like a little template, right? So you talk about these things, about those things, and something like that, right? And then we launch it. And within several, depends on the number of leads and interactions, but within, several days, several weeks, you just see that conversation completely morphing. So because as soon as you start The first thing she does, she starts experimenting, what we call A/B testing, right? What if I introduce myself? What if I don't introduce myself? What if I send it in the morning? What if I send it in the afternoon? What if I send it midday? What if I say, have a nice... And she constantly varies. Within weeks, the conversation is virtually unrecognizable, right? Now, the point of the conversation didn't change. The point of the conversation, for example, if it's lead follow-up, is to bring that individual into the facility to see it with their own eyes, right? So if that's the purpose of the conversation, the call to action is always that. But how she says is what she says changes. And so people, our customers, come and say, well, why does she do this, right? Why did she choose this over that? I would never have done that. And that is going back to what I was saying before, why AI is better than humans, because it avoids human biases. Like, we think we know.
You don't know.
We don't know. Like, we make our best guesses based on some number of years of experience, but pardon the technical language, our sample size is not that high. She's right now she's had about 60 million individual conversations, right? Her sample size is massive, right? And so she just optimizes for conversion. Simple example. I have a signature in my email. It says Victor Belfort something, right? When I write to a new person, I never say, hi, this is Victor Belfort, right? Because you can see in my signature. More often than not, she will say, hi, this is Rachel. My name is Rachel, I'm the sales assistant, here's Conversa. Why does she do that? We don't know. We have no idea why.
Because it works.
It converts better. It just works. All right. Yeah,
that's perfect. One of my favorite things about that we learned from Conversica was it's actually better if she's a female.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was interesting. So do y'all have anything off of that? I think one of the main points to drive home is as you talk to people about AI, and you're going to see a lot more solutions that are coming at you, right, and saying that they are AI, think through some of the questions you should ask them is how much data are you training on? So for example, at Daxco, we've been in business in this industry for over 10 years. We've got thousands and thousands of customers. And so Jeff Keene is here somewhere. He runs our machine learning department. He's been with us working on it for 7 years. So when you talk to other platforms that are out there, ask them, how much data are you referencing to train this model? Because if you're using a small sample size, like what Victor said, you're gonna have everybody jumping off the bridge because it's gonna think that's the right thing to do versus learning and iterating each time it receives feedback. So those are just the questions that you need to ask as you look through this, not an AI strategy, because we talked about it not being a strategy, but through these new business models. So do you feel like you need to hire for an AI tool or an AI solution? Is it to scale back on people? Is it a growth strategy? What is AI? What should it be when you're budgeting for it?
Yeah, I think it's just like everything we're doing with technology. And I think there's two things that I think make it effective is one, it's not, I don't think to eliminate people, I think it's to use people more effectively. So I think in the club level, when you're automating processes, whether it be through your software or through AI, you're enabling those same people to do something that's more effective. And I would say it actually enables more human connection. So, those people are able to get out into the club. Those people are actually able to follow up with more leads at a more effective point. So instead of doing manual processes, they're able to actually close more sales, set more appointments, walk the floor more. So to me, I think it actually provides even a higher level of human connection. And I think that's really the goal, for all of us. And these are just tools that enable us to do that.
Yeah, and you need to, in any use case, first you need to understand the data around what you're doing today. And sadly, many people in the industry space don't know answers to very basic questions. So back to my discussion about evaluating your current state and what kind of user experience you want to create, what kind of conversion. You need to know things like, hey, what am I spending on marketing today? What am I spending on people today? What results am I really getting? What is my conversion rate off of my promotions? What kind of lead to close ratios are we dealing with? Basic data, because with that, then you can do the math. And I'm here to tell you, if you do the math right, you're going to probably be shocked when it comes to identifying what really is happening in your business. And then you can compare that to what these tools may provide otherwise. But I can't emphasize enough the need to objectively analyze fundamental aspects of your business around these kind of metrics and more, so that when you are evaluating it, you're doing it truly with a clean slate and eliminating any biases that you have, which might, that little inner voice might be telling you things that aren't really legit. They've just been the way you've been doing it for a long time, and you assume because your doors are open and you're doing okay, that everything must be fine. So I think it's really, really important that you have that objective assessment to properly evaluate an ROI with a new approach.
Yeah, I'll give you an illustration. So imagine that you are like a SoulCycle studio in a busy intersection in San Francisco. So that's kind of one position, and there is like a 24-hour fitness in the other one corner and something else in another corner. Versus you are the only yoga studio in Toadsuck, Arkansas. No offense to anyone who's from Toadsuck, Arkansas. It's a real place, but I'm sure they only have one studio, if that. Your business objectives are completely different, right? In one case, you are in a fiercely competitive environment. You have, some market share. You want to get more market share. You want to attract. You want to pull in. You want to grow, right? In the second scenario, chances are pretty high that your market share is 100% because there's no one else. Everyone who wants to take yoga goes only to you. In which case, your objective is not growth. You can't grow. There's nobody else. In that case, your objective is, cost reduction, higher efficiency. And all of these things are just hammers. Hammers, hammer, nails. And if you want to build a house, you need to be hammer, nail. If you need to fix your kitchen, you need to have, it's just different applications of the same tools. So we absolutely have customers who use Rachel as a cost reduction measure, right? And making more efficient certain things, right? We absolutely have customers who use her as a growth engine, right? So what we see, a lot of our customers tend to hire additional salespeople after they deploy Conversica, because your top of the funnel is what it is. However you spend on marketing remains that. So if you get 100 leads a month, you're going to get 100 leads a month. That won't change. But she widens the funnel. She just converts more of them to opportunities, to visits. And the visits are time consuming. I mean, you got to show people around, and you got to become a price quote, and you got to negotiate, and you exchange some correspondence, right? That's time consuming. You need more salespeople to handle more of those opportunities. So it can go absolutely both ways.
Yeah, I would say just to add on to that, and I know we're talking a lot about new members and that part of it. I think internally to drive more revenue, I mean, just think about examples, starting a new program at a certain time of the day, right? Be able to grab that information. Who are people that check in that time of the day, who have maybe participated in a similar type program in the past, be able to grab that data easily, which again, we can do through, the club management systems, be able to push that to then, a Conversica who can then engage quickly a conversation where obviously in our space now, we can grab that information, we can put that into a communication, but then where does the follow-up happen from there, right? And how many times can you do that? And just think of the number of opportunities within your own club. If you had the time to promote more activities, the amount of revenue that you could drive. And now what if you could not only promote it, but then you could create a conversation with someone that felt very personal to drive them to an action. So I think it's, obviously to drive new revenue, new members, I think it's just as important to drive engagement of your existing members, whether it be from a retention standpoint or auxiliary revenue standpoint, which I think in our industry, we're all realizing that has to become a larger portion of our revenue pot.
I think one of the interesting things about Conversica, when we were looking through it, this number shocked me. So we've all heard the marketing stat, you need to reach people 7 times before they really start hearing it. So back to all the options that you guys are offering at your club, every option you have to reach out to them 7 times. I mean, that is a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of labor to get the emails written up and all that stuff. And so to get a person to convert on Conversica from when she first launches an email cycle and then converts to a member was something like 11 to 13 email communications. I know as a human, like after somebody tells me no 4 times, I'm done. And so I just thought that was really interesting that you really have to be that persistent because there's so much noise in the market that to really stand out and for your communications to stand out, it takes that much. So I thought that was interesting. One thing,
Can I add something to that point? Because again, this is what AI is really exceptional at. So this average of 11 to 13 is actually a fairly meaningless number because it really depends. Because it really depends on the use case and on the type of customer, right? So we have a customer called Embraer. Embraer is a private jet manufacturer, Lear's biggest competitor. So the buyers are, high net worth individuals, big corporate buyers. Average number of emails that assistant sends is something like 23, right? Don't ask me why. Like, I don't know why. It's again, like, we don't know why. It just converts, right? There are industries in which a lead becomes dead within 2 days, right? If it's a car insurance or something like that, that lead, 2-3 days, it's dead. And that assistant will follow up multiple times in the first couple of days and then trail off, right? So she determines sort of her own behavior, again, optimizing for conversion. But we don't know this, right? Like there's no, I've never seen, including Embraer, I've never seen rules of engagement or rules for salespeople that say, please make 22 attempts. Like I've just never seen anything like that, right? Right, we just make some assumptions based on experiences, which may or may not be true.
So this is a little bit, I'm throwing y'all a wild card, but I think it's something that you brought up, Jeff, and I think that's interesting for everybody in the room.
Just try us.
Y'all can have things. So at your clubs, I'm sure you're getting hit every day with solutions that are going to make you stronger, powerful, bigger, whatever your dream is at night. So you've got marketing automation solutions like Marketo, you've got lead management solutions like Lead Dolphin and ClubOS, and so how everybody has all of these different platforms that they use to convert and to grow, and so how can AI plug into those, right? Those are very, they're all different. Does anybody have?
Yeah, I think again, it's, a lot of those, the tools you're talking about are gathering information, are creating a targeted audience, are engaging with initial communication. And I think that's, we've come a long way there. I think she'll have a long way to go even on that part of the industry. What this does to me is then just takes it to the next step. It's that next level where now you're managing a series of communications. And again, for me, initially I was skeptical on something like this, and after walking through the product and digging into it, it is very, it feels very personal. It feels very genuine. So I think, again, it's just that next step in the process.
From a totality perspective, my view is one of the key challenges, especially for independent operators today, is siloed systems. And while you can apply this tool in many ways, the reality is that even for small operators, they are operating 5, 7, 9 different platforms with disparate information, and they're not integrated very well, or their APIs are pretty clunky. And really, in the long run, that's not going to help your business. So whether you're using these tools or not, I think the ability to really leverage this kind of technology is going to come down to adopting an enterprise platform, because enterprise platform, which means it covers all the key components of your business, enables a more seamless integration of all your data. It eliminates problems of duplication of data. It enables you to leverage the idea of collection of data so that you can automate. You can plug in these tools more easily. And I think it's really important, again, getting back to the fundamental blocking and tackling, is understanding what is your business strategy, what are you trying to create to the customer, how are you trying to operate,
and then understanding on the back end how these tools need to be in place to really do that in a way that's scalable, affordable, minimizes your cost of execution and optimizes your opportunity to generate more revenue in a plethora of ways. And we've just touched on a few of them. There are plenty more. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I completely, I just couldn't agree more, right? You can bolt this thing on to just about anything, right? There's no problem. You can do Dolphin, do anything you want, right? Do you want to bolt it on to 9 separate things, right? And the examples that were given are great in the previous discussion, right? Great examples. Well, if you got a lead, who's going to follow up on that lead? Okay, that's one system. Person hasn't checked into the gym for the last 2 months, definitely need some kind of an engagement thing going out. Is that the same system? No, right? Missed a payment, credit card information is out of date, needs to update their credit card information. It's a third. Like that, it becomes completely, unscalable and unmanageable. I mean, how many people do you have in your technology departments, right? So coming onto a single platform that has visibility into all of these things just gives you completely different sets of capabilities.
Yes, and I want to add to that, just the whole way we look at retention is wrong. The more you have view into the life cycle of the customer, which is really the important thing, the more you can understand from lead to conversion to their use of the facility to their departure. The more all that data is in one place, the more you learn to understand what that means. It iterates to improving based on data, not on your opinion. What are the things that are actually happening that actually make a difference for the user and as a result for your business? The whole way many people look at our industry space and the metrics are wrong. And a lot of it is because of a lack of having complete visibility from beginning to end and being able to analyze that data in a thoughtful way. There are diamonds in that rough if you just know how to listen and ask the quite right questions as a result of looking at that.
Yeah, and people sometimes ask me, like, Victor, what's your biggest barrier to adoption? And our biggest barrier to adoption is experts, right? Because they're completely convinced that they know, what they know. They don't know.
They don't know.
Right?
They don't know.
Just take a look at sort of performance of index funds versus
venture capital or
right,
private equity.
Right, private equity or whatever, right? And index funds in the long term outperform. Nobody knows, right? So stepping back and just letting data speak for itself is very challenging for some. People have marketing degrees out there. They want to write their messages and they want to create their own copy, and it's like, they'll do it.
Yeah. Right.
This is a self-confession. I've been a retention nerd for years, and so if you ever want a truly fascinating conversation on retention, corner him, because it's amazing what you can get out of that, and the different time frames that you can. There's so many levers to pull to get the information that you need that it's just an amazing conversation. So I do want to bring one thing up. So there's something that we do in product. It's called customer experience mapping. So we take what you're going through and we go through each individual. We pretend we're you, and we go through what is that experience like? Like when you sign up with Daxco, what is that experience like? And I strongly encourage y'all to just take a step out of your role at your club. Pretend you're just a random member in the community and look through all of your software that you're using and think through what that feels like on their end. What are the generic emails that they're getting versus the personalized? What's it like when they pull into the parking lot? So just take all of your solutions that you have and look through what that experience must feel like. And if you're in a budget situation, unless y'all have a money tree, where you've got to look through, I want AI, but something's got to go. I would strongly encourage you looking to see what you think has the least impact of all those solutions. But if it's something that's expensive, but it's having the furthest reach, or you can tell through voice of the customer, through any surveys that you're doing, that it's what people appreciate the most, keep that, right? Don't just do it by dollars. Look at what's really having an impact. But you have to step out of yourself to do that. So I would just encourage that. So we need to debunk a myth. AI is replacing humans. If you want quality, people have to do it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I just think it comes back to what do we actually want humans to be doing, right? And so I think the goal with technology and AI is another step to that is, we want humans to be engaging with humans as much as possible. And so to me, again, these tools, whether it be just cutting down on manual work, in a back office with other technology, whether it be, using AI for sales or to engage people to do more activities. It's kind of like, what's that low-hanging fruit, that we can use technology to perform tasks and make it very professional and scalable, and allow humans to actually interact with customers. I've been in thousands of clubs, right? And the number of people in a back office doing manual work or busy setting up communications or managing leads or in an office, doing things that if they were freed up of time, they could be on the floor, they could be setting appointments, they could be out at corporations, they could actually be spending more time with people. And to me, that's the ultimate goal of technology. There is obviously a cost reduction opportunity and kind of a budgeting issue there. But if you have that budget, just convert it into more human interaction with technology.
So here's some stats. 162 million members globally in the health club industry, according to IHRSA. 454 million users globally of digital health apps and trackers. Okay, the reality is that it's not humans versus tech. Again, it's about your business, how you want to compete, and a combination of things that make the most sense. But what we got to stop doing is bringing our biases to the table and start realizing this is the age of the customer, and they don't give a damn what we think. They know what they want. Some people don't like hearing that. It makes them mad. But the people that are going to win in the era of the customer are the people that are just going to embrace what I just told you. And the other ones are going to be bloodied on the side of the road because it's just what's happening right now. But it doesn't mean that what he's saying, it's just like the drive-in movie theaters, All it means is you've got to be objective about what you're trying to do in a market. And whether you're in Arkansas, as was pointed out by Victor, which is a great example, or you're in Manhattan, or depending on what your BHAG is and what your, drives your economic engine, all these variables. But know this, omnipresence delivery, when it comes to customer experience, those 5% of geniuses in the consumer market space that are out there competing most successfully are the ones that are applying deft integration of super high quality human interaction with very, very thoughtful systems that are eloquently designed in an interactive way that makes people want to spend a hell of a lot more money than they would otherwise. SoulCycle, that's been around for 10 years now, has been the guru brand the last several years, 53% bottom line margin on revenue. They kick everyone's butt. You know why? Deft integration of outstanding human interaction with a very focused business model with excellent automation, elegant app, elegant integration of tech. That's how you're going to win right now. And the customer, it's all about what they think, not what we think.
I may say something out of turn and provocative, and I apologize if I,
Worse than poppycock?
It's an original.
So at the moment, I don't know how it's going to evolve, but at the moment, AI isn't good at human relationships, right? AI is not going to establish a relationship, a deep relationship with another human being. So AI is not good at that. AI is really good at eliminating biases, and one of my favorite stories is about an MIT researcher who really liked wine, and he analyzed prices of Bordeaux wines, like vintage Bordeaux wines, and built a little algorithm. And there are many experts in wine trading business. It's very expensive wine. People look at soil quality and sun, days of sun, whatever. And he built an algorithm that outperformed experts from Bordeaux by some ridiculous margin, right? Because it's just not swayed by anything other than data. Here's how many days of rainfall, sunshine, whatever. So no biases, complete elimination of biases. And here's what's interesting. The question is, what's the ratio of human relationship versus, these types of more scalable processes in the business? And I don't know how provocative this will be, but I think a lot of businesses think that relationships are a lot more important than that other part.
Right.
Largely because we're human and we like relationships a lot. I will point this out. Amazon isn't the cheapest e-commerce vendor out there on the internet. They are, however, the best, right? I mean, clearly. When was the last time you talked to anybody at Amazon? Right? Apple is, has the single largest market cap in the history of corporations and will soon cross the $1 trillion benchmark. When was the last time you talked to somebody at Apple? I mean, I know there was the Whiz Bar or whatever, Genius Bar or whatever, right? What I'm gonna kind of challenge you, like, to what extent do you guys really think your business is a relationship business versus amazing customer experience business, right? Creating what Bryan was talking about, like mystery shop yourself. Get your mom to mystery shop you, right? What kinds of emails she gets, what kind of applications, but like test whether that holistic experience is really amazing. Yeah,
That's true.
I think another thing that you'll find is you guys might have an amazing salesperson. You want to keep them, right? And a big part of keeping strong people is providing rewarding careers. A rewarding career for a strong salesperson is face-to-face interaction. That's how salespeople feed off themselves, chasing a deal, closing a deal. It is not sending emails back and forth saying, hey, please come in, please come in, please come in. That's just not the strength, and that's not where they're going to feed off of. So if you guys want to think about how to keep your staff, any role that you've got going on, marketing, sales, whatever, look for ways that you can take away the mundane tasks off their plate. You will see performance increase because every day that they come in, they're rewarded. So think of it that way. The other thing, I was thinking about it this morning, as I saw that the 8th nor'easter was hitting northern part of the country. I was actually thinking about Nora, which is the AI that we have. It is, right now Nora keeps sending emails, but most of the clubs are closed. Most people can't get to work. There's a lot of people sitting at home checking their emails because they're bored out of their brains and Netflix can only do so much. What a great time for them to be receiving communication from you, but right now nobody's working on your staff. They're taking off. So that's one of the benefits too of having something automated, just doing kind of the goofy stuff. So think about that. You raised your hand, which is perfect timing because well,
Questions?
it's questions
Sorry,
time.
one-handed.
So I'm gonna walk around and if you guys, y'all just raise your hand and I'm gonna walk up to you and say, and have y'all speak into the mic so that everybody can hear and make a video.
Thank you very much. I'm just curious to hear from each of you, where is the penetration or market adoption of the AI technology
Great question.
in our industry today? And maybe you could reference, from a technology perspective, have we well past kind of, crossing the chasm, or where are we on that technology continuum?
Nowhere.
I'm not an industry expert, but I will say you guys are nowhere.
Yeah. Nowhere.
Which is fantastic. Like,
Great
that
opportunity.
is such good news. You don't understand how great that is.
That's right.
Because you there is still an opportunity to be that, in other industries, it's no longer a differentiator. It extracts your efficiencies. It does many wonderful things, right? But you can't really use it as a differentiator per se anymore. You guys can, and we have examples from industries that are really similar. Like, for example, a lot of for-profit colleges and vocational schools, which are very similar because they also have, enrollment, and then they have attendance problems and completion problems, and engagement is a huge issue, and collections and all of these things, right? those guys are crushing it using this type of technology, right? So there is still an opportunity to really stand out. That's my 2 cents.
I agree.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you know?
Hi, I'm Jason Barati. I'm wondering, is AI monitoring risk yet? And if it is the paradigm by which the human interaction occurs after that different?
Risk of what?
Well, we're in an industry that has health risks and minor risks and intellectual property risks and all kinds of risks. So generally, and specifically if there's an injury.
Yeah, so so the product that we deal with is a conversational AI product, right? What she's really good at is using other data triggers to change the conversation, right? So based on certain behaviors, certain risk, whatever those flags are, she may or may not choose a certain path for the conversation. But we need data inputs in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, So EcoFit Networks, which I'm affiliated with, that is a great example of risk, because what it does is it's collecting data on the use of equipment 24/7 around hundreds of facilities around the world now. And so the issues of automating equipment problems is one example of risk mitigation. Because if you have problems with certain equipment, certain data that you wouldn't know otherwise, that can obviously address an issue of risk that you can mitigate by at least having the information to know what to do about it. But it's a different type of technology than what they're doing. But it's an example of data with algorithms that are monitoring behaviors that can tell you something's wrong so you can fix it.
That goes back to the machine learning
Yep.
versus AI, right?
Yep.
So there's some great machine learning technology out there that does that. It's up to you to change the behavior to mitigate those risks. So there's
Hi, I'm Kathy Arena. I think it's very exciting. I love getting rid of the mundane tasks of all the emails and reaching out and getting rid of biases. Could you speak a little bit about when the transition occurs from AI to the human? Because I think that's really important to have that be seamless, and Jeff, maybe you're the person to speak best to that. And secondly, do you have Rachel or Nora interacting with people who are leaving? And maybe, I'm always done a real strong point about that human interaction to save somebody, if we can, So if you can speak to those two pieces, the transition, and if you're dealing with people leaving your business.
Yeah, it's a great question. That was really one of the main questions I had for Victor as we walked through the product. So the transition, really the way Nora works is the goal is to get her to engage the customer to actually engage with a human, right? So she actually, towards the end of the conversation, it's setting up an appointment. It's, are you free tomorrow morning for a phone call? And then basically there's a pass off that says, okay, great, Michelle will be reaching out to you at 9 a.m. And then it's a follow up after that. Did Michelle reach you? Did you talk to Michelle? And just making sure that you close the loop, right? So it really is that conversation to lead to a human interaction, right? And then in terms of, from a retention standpoint, it's a very similar process, right? It's could be pulling for cancellation reasons and getting that person, and there might be some low-hanging fruit where people take an action, but ultimately it ends up probably just making a pass off to a human to finalize that interaction.
I think one of the interesting things when I've looked through some of the conversations that comes through those emails and back to terminations is, when they quit you, they just kind of want to say, I'm done, and then walk out the door, don't really want to get engaged in a conversation. What happens through checking on you and saying, through the Nora checking on you and saying, hey, you left, is everything okay, basically, is you get feedback. You get real feedback because people are more comfortable doing it through an email because they don't have that face-to-face pressure. So not only, I think what's interesting about the AI is it actually gathers more information from the people that it's communicating with. So you get good emails, you get good phone numbers, you get the real reason that people quit. And just that feedback that you're craving for. I've looked through thousands of accounts that have termination reasons just to see the main reason that people term. 90% of the time it's other, or something completely unhelpful like moving, and you're like, well, there's not that many people moving, what's going on? So now you can kind of see the real feedback instead of somebody just putting, oh, I'm just moving. You see exactly what happened.
Actually, I'll let me chime in here. All of that is absolutely true, and it is her primary goal is to put two humans together at the time that both of them are ready to talk to each other. All right. She does do one fairly unique thing that we stopped doing. We used to do it when we actually had assistants, so she checks in after the sales call or after retention call, whatever that human interaction was, she checks in afterwards, right? So when, it'll be very difficult for me to write you an email and say, hey, you remember a meeting yesterday, I'm just checking in today to see whether I answered all your questions, right? It's like, well, like when you call Comcast and it says, have I provided you with excellent service today? Just, awkward. But Nora can do that all day long. And she writes an email at the end, says, hey, you were supposed to talk to Bryan. How did it go? Did he answer all your questions? About a third of the time, the answer is negative. Either he didn't show up, I didn't show up, he was supposed to send me additional information, he didn't, he was supposed to send me a price quote, he sent me a price quote for the wrong product. Somehow, going back to this whole satisfaction conversation, right? Somehow the customer left the situation unsatisfied, right?
A little thought may not seem that it relates. I think hopefully some of you will get that it relates. So the Department of Defense did a study about therapists working with people who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. The AI is 35% more successful with the therapy than the human therapist, because they don't have to worry about the person's bias that they're dealing with. Again, objectivity in data is very powerful. It eliminates bias. And it even affects the way people respond to other people when they know they're not dealing with bias on the other end.
Good morning, Cassandra Stitch with Dog Health.
How are you?
So my question is a little bit more high level and big picture and visionary about how this is all going to play out. As more and more pieces become integrated, we talked about less silos, more APIs. You've got everything connected to everything. You've got a hub where people are connecting their wearables, and I run structured assessment programming and all this sort of thing. I'm curious about the AI, maybe a thread or a narrative of is that like become the voice of like your entire organization eventually, like moving through member engagement, member signing on, assigned to a trainer, working through the workouts, meeting your fitness goals, how does it work out with your doctor, disease state management, blah, 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 on and on and on. Do we just need to keep having these big conversations about how we work together and pull all this technology together into a really great ecosystem?
So all that technology does is unleash the genius of people. And out there in the world right now are some young people. They may be here. And they're waiting for our technology to unleash their genius. And what's going to happen is this: the greatest products and services for our industry space have not been invented yet. So the new era is about asking better questions based on objective data and thinking about that. And that's where the innovators appear. And they revolutionize everything we thought about what we do. And I'm waiting for them, and they're gonna show up.
Yeah, I think you ask a good question in terms of, what is the system of record? Are we managing multiple databases? And I think that's the process that we're in technology from a management system side. So, I think it's twofold, and I think the way we approach it is we want to give people an opportunity to manage their entire facility through a platform, through a lot of tools, but also be open to allow the connection of other platforms. And I think as time goes on, that API structure becomes more powerful and more consistent, but ultimately to have a consistent message and to not be tripping over each system, I think that can be pulled into a system of record, which is making sure that it's organized in one place.
This is very interesting. I'm pretty sure you understand everything you were talking about. I mean, it's not very perfect, but anyway, what I see here is this is like kind of like a CRM with intelligence, with feedback from the customers, always learning. You want to have like a stand in the show that we can have more information instead of I want to have my gloves with that system. We're going to be there in the group.
Delphine, is this a plan? This is like a perfect question.
Yeah. She paid him $100 to do that?
Delphine can answer that.
Delphine can answer.
Still more questions, but if you go by the Dexco booth, then you can see some of the conversations, see how you feel about how authentic they are.
Hi, everyone. This is Bryan O'Rourke again. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. The podcast is brought to you by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, as well as my company, Videri Ventures, Moon Mission Media, and others. We hope you enjoyed the content. Please feel free to share it and join us again soon when we bring to you another leader in the fitness space talking about technology and what it means to our industry. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you again very soon.